Hi everyone and welcome along. Today we're going to paint a lovely set of swans. But before we get started, I want to show you what turned up in the post for me and Ant. We've got can you see him in the reflection?
My hand's waving.
He's behind the camera and he's waving. Thank you very much to each and every one of you who have subscribed, and to all of you who are watching this and haven't subscribed yet. Why not hit the subscription button and you'll never miss another video. That's what I normally say at the end. Anyway, we're very proud to have this and we can't wait to keep creating more videos for you. So on that note, grab your paints and let's get started. Okay, so we're going to do some swans. So what we want to do is get a baseline for the swan, and from that we can sort of curve up for the neck, the iconic neck. And then over the top, I always find it the easiest way to draw a swan is actually to keep going with the neck and get it going into the head, and then that beautiful beak just curves really nicely from sort of the top of the head coming down, and then we can create that shape there, which gives us the black and orange on the beak. And so that shape is our swan curving neck that comes round, and then I'm just going to sort of bring it back down, keeping it fairly parallel, just getting a little bit thicker, and then from that point I'm going to really go for it with getting the plumage of feathers, and down at the bottom there just a sort of lower little plumage that's going to come into a little tip of a tail. And there we've got a rather nice swan. And I'm going to do another one just sort of a little bit further in the front, and this one's going to have its neck so just coming up a little bit higher. So again, starting from the base there and just maybe just sort of angling up a little bit longer and taller, and then the head will sort of be even more sort of angled in. So then the top of the neck comes on over the top and just a little bit sort of forward there. The beauty of sort of sketching it out with pencil first. You can sort of really, there we go, just get those proportions how you want them. And then coming down and getting that lovely wing shape. It's like sort of drawing lovely meringues, I always think. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to use masking fluid on this piece, because what I'd love to do is have a lovely wash setting surrounding these swans, but of course we want to make sure we can get all the nice white highlights of them. So what I'm first going to do is from some of the heavier pencil bits that I've done, I'm just going to lightly rub those out to just lose some of the heaviness of the pencil, but we're still keeping the pencil drawing there because I want to have it so I can see it. But now I've done that, I'm now going to paint these in with masking fluid, and I'm also going to use the masking fluid to just create a few little ripples in the water as well. So with two rather unloved paintbrushes, I'm going to paint the masking fluid on the swans, and now I'm going to use masking fluid to just add in a few ripples in the water, because it's just going to look, well, it's going to look super cool, adding in a few highlights in the water. So I'm using my smaller brush and just trying to do some nice, quite sort of organic shapes, and it's sort of got a bit of a whirlpool kind of shape with the ripples in the water, but we'll just put a few more down like that. So we need to let this dry 100%, and then we can do a beautiful wash over the top of it. These are pretty much dry, so let's talk about colours. Now, I got some new colours recently in my palette. If you haven't seen last week about how to clean and tidy up your palette, I also showed you how to add in new colours if you want to take old ones out and get new ones in. Anyway, this is Moon Glow by Daniel Smith Watercolour, which is lovely. Very keen on that. So what I want to do with this, I don't want to just do a, you know, blue water wash. There are so many other wonderful light and shade colours that might have been, you know, bouncing off street lights or other kinds of light sources, sunsets, all kinds of things. So I've got some, this is Buff Titanium, which is another colour I picked up from Daniel Smith Watercolour. I'm going to wake up the orange, cadmium orange, because I think this might be an interesting combination, because our swans are white, but white, if you're painting snow, we often talk about how the white of the snow picks up the colours that are reflected off it, and so we're going to be doing that with this as well. But to start off, I'm going to just wet the page. So I've got a mop brush that I sell in my shop. It's just really good for a nice large coverage of colour. Here we go. So that is just beading off over the top of the masking fluid. It's not affected, so that's brilliant. That means it's masking the colour underneath. And now I'm going to take my filbert brush, it's a nice large brush, also available. In fact, all the brushes that I use in my tutorials are available in my shop, which is pretty cool. So I'm just letting the mop wash settle in whilst I talk to you about a few other colours. I think we will get some slight blue tones in there, probably mainly through Payne's Grey. So we'll get some of that going. And then I think also Imperial Purple. It's a really nice colour that I picked up from Daniel Smith Watercolours as well. So I was quite excited recently to pay a visit to Asta's bookshop and art materials in Chagford in Devon. It's a beautiful bookshop, and they've recently added an art supplies section, which is really exciting because there isn't a huge amount of choice to go to a shop in person around me. So it was really fantastic. So I highly recommend. I did a little YouTube short actually, talking all about our visit. Okay, so I've got some yellow tones, some cream tones, and I've got some purpley dark tones. So I'm going to begin. It's sort of around the base really of the swans. I'm going to start with my Buff Titanium, and I'm going to place in a little bit of that, and then I'm going to have some oranges around, and then I'm going to take my Payne's Grey and actually place it sort of just like immediately underneath, because that's where the the real shadow comes, and maybe just some sort of darkness floating in there, and then some purple tones. So the oranges are probably going to get a little bit lost initially, but they are going to be there. And now just with my larger brush, just bleeding those into one another. So the orange tones are there, but they are gentle, they are quiet. In behind, I'm going to do a bit of that as well. Well, that's quite interesting. So I just put my brush in the Buff Titanium, but It had a little bit of blue on it, and I actually really like that colour. And you can see I can just paint immediately over the swans because they've got this, they've got the masking fluid on them, and then a bit of the moon glow, and now just getting my filbert brush, which is just fairly clear. I want to make sure we've got colour sort of all around the swans so that the effects of the masking fluid is really felt. So with the filbert brush, what's great is I can use it sort of on the side like this and get some nice streaks coming through, just cutting up the light colours. Yeah, so I'm really pleased with that. And you can see just by thinking a little bit differently about what colours you place in a watery wash can just like present you with something a little bit different. So I'm really pleased with that. Need to let that dry 100%, and then we're gonna peel off the masking fluid. Okay, so off it comes. Everything on my table wobbles when I when I get rid of masking fluids, so I think I'll do it off camera, but you can see basically you just rub it with a finger and it comes away. I'm going to leave the masking fluid on my water beneath because I want to do a little bit more with the reflections once we've painted the swans in, but you can see all you need to do is peel it away gently with a finger. So my aim is to use the colours in the reflection also in the colours of the swan, but the first thing I am going to do is use cadmium orange to just paint in a base layer on the beak. And then I'll just add a little bit of cadmium red to the orange and give it just a little bit extra underneath. Okay, and we'll just let that settle in. So what I do need to do is create a general shadow colour first. So burnt sienna and some Payne's grey. That's a lot of Payne's grey. It's a very dominant colour. Get some more burnt sienna in there and dilute it down a little bit, maybe get a little bit more in there. Just get to a nice sort of warm grey colour that I can then add that to some of the other colours that I'm using. Okay, I'm going to start with the lightest colour first, and I'm going to start with Buff Titanium, this colour here, and I am going to basically sort of create a roundness and a sort of contour on the swan. So I'm going to look for the sort of darker, shadier areas to begin with, so sort of underneath the neck and then sort of coming down the back of the neck there, and I can start to sort of include maybe a little bit of that moon glow purple into the Buff Titanium. And by using these slightly sort of unexpected colours, they're not unexpected because they're now in the water as well, so there's a little bit of Payne's grey as well. We're creating a swan that's very much sort of in situ in the water. So yeah, this is my colour palette now, which is great, and I'm just essentially using the unpainted white space that's already there to help me sort of create a bit of a texture with the feathery finish, and also the sort of the roundness and the shape of the wings themselves. So if I sort of look now at the wing, I've got my buff titanium, and I'm using my size 0 brush to sort of create feathery texture, but also we have the outline of the wash. I did have a tiny bit of paper peeled away with the masking fluid, which has never happened before, so just that little bit there, but I don't think it's anything to worry about. It's another useful moment where things don't go 100% right and we can actually look at how we solve them. But I'm focusing on that top wing there with buff titanium, and I've got a bit of the sort of quite diluted moon glow that's just going to come in and be the next sort of diluted layer down, becoming a low light on those feathers. And maybe, you know, a little bit of the orange could be there. It's a bit sort of wild to think that I'm using these colours, but it does work. It really does work. I'm going to take a slightly larger brush and take just a little bit of general shadow. And what I want to do is just sort of bring that up, coming off the back of the neck, and a little bit just underneath these first wings, and also along the base. Keep your brush strokes always moving in a way that will best sort of represent the body of the bird. So now I've got some more Payne's grey, and I'm going to bring that on top of the main shadow. So I'm going to sort of create the texture on the other swan, just using those tones again, and then we'll look at more detail. We've got both swans with lots of nice detail, and now what I want to do is I want to just look down to the area below and just create a bit more of a reflection. So what I'm now trying to do, remember we didn't rub out the masking fluid, so now I'm sort of creating a shadowy shape of the swan's head, but using these horizontal lines. But what's going to be awesome is we're going to have the little white highlights as well, so we've got low lights that I'm painting in here, so a little bit of Payne's grey as well. Just remember that you have peeled the masking fluid off that bit, so don't be too sort of free with your brush in the areas that you're like, oh yeah, no, I haven't actually got that as a safe masked area anymore. We still want those lovely, interesting colours to come through, so don't do too much with it. Now I've plated in, what I am going to do is just do one little extra sort of stronger bit of shadow just underneath those wings and on the bottom of the body where it meets the water. It's really important to get quite a sort of deep dark line where they meet. There we go. And now up at the top we can add in some Mars Black on the beak. So I've got a size 2/10 brush here, and I'm going to just paint in Mars Black this fine line detail on the swan's beak that we had drawn in at least the basic, and now I can add to it. So smooth that one down and then just sort of a little bit bulbous over the top. Okay, I'm going to let that dry 100%, and then we're going to peel off the masking fluid and just see if we want to add anything else. Okay, so we've rubbed out the masking fluid, and I've also rubbed out the pencil, and you can just see that it is just lifted and really lovely, and those white birds really do start to shine. So the last thing I'm going to do with a bit of shadow is just send a little bit of that shadow down the bottom half of the beak, and just the tiniest bit of black tip on the beak, and there we go. There are your swans. Thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed that one. I want to say a massive thank you to my patrons for their support, because that support enables us to keep creating videos like these that everyone can enjoy. And if you enjoyed it, then hit the like button and comment below to let me know how you got on with that one. And of course, if you never want to miss another video, just hit that subscription button and the little notification bell, and we'll see you again next time. Bye!